Hey, it's Michael Kosta. This is the Tennis Anyone podcast, Tuesday, November 26th. Exciting stuff. Nothing is happening in the tennis world when I fell for it again. I was watching the Los Cabos final. It was Jamin Thompson and Casper Ruud, and I'm like, is this happening right now? No, it was like 6 months ago. So they're playing finals now of matches that have already happened. The big news in tennis, and thank you to everybody who showed up to Washington, D.C. So many tennis people showed up. It's crazy. And they say, did you hear about it, Michael? Did you hear about it after the show? We were doing picks. We were having fun. First show totally sold out. Thank you, Kennedy Center, Washington, D.C. That was amazing. What a beautiful venue. I got to admit, I'm more used to comedy clubs. I'm more used to drunk hecklers. Everyone was dressed up. Everyone was in their seat. It was beautiful. Mwah! Love it. Thank you, Kennedy Center. Thank you, Washington, D.C., for making me feel like a stud. Thank you for all of you for buying tickets and filling it out. And second show was Gangbusters 2. A couple seats left in the back, but we're getting there, folks. I'm slowly building. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for helping. And we also had a funny, fun show. Chris Allen was the opening act. He was a very funny guy. So thank you. But a lot of people in the photo line afterwards were saying, what do you think? And if you're listening to this going, what do I think of what? Well, I'm going to tell you. Andy Murray, now Coach Andy Murray, for who? Novak Djokovic. What the fuck? It's true. And I already lost it. No. Djokovic hires Andy Murray as coach for Australian Open Tennis Grand Slam. Does that mean for the whole year? Does that mean for the Grand Slam? Former rivals team up before new tennis season as Djokovic seeks his career 25th singles and 11th Australian Open title. And I'll read the article. This comes from Al Jazeera. My first question was, how many times did they play head-to-head? It's in this article, but it was something, just to give you a short answer, it's like 35 times, which is a lot. Djokovic won something like 25. So two-thirds of the time, Djokovic won. Very interesting. I'm always blown away when someone wants back in tennis so quickly, but I also didn't get to this level. I didn't get to the level of three-time Grand Slam champion Andy Murray. And remember, he's been hanging on this retirement thing. I mean, it's not like I think he retired, then he came back. Does he have 3 kids? I do a joke now that Sir Edmund Hillary, the guy who climbed Mount Everest, had like 11 kids. The guy Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile, had like 6 kids. I think the more kids you have, the more you want to just risk your life and achieve great feats. Andy Murray has 3 kids. He's like, no, I really want to help Novak Djokovic solidify the greatest tennis player of all time. Or you don't want to stay home with these 3 kids. It's a lot of work. I would rather help Novak Djokovic win his 25th Grand Slam and the amount of effort that goes into that than do daycare, drop-off, and pick-up every day. Oof. Anyways, I don't know the ins and outs of his life, marriage, whatever, kids. I'm sure he loves them very much. But this isn't like a small feat to go on the road with somebody. Let's read the article. It might just be for the Australian Open. Novak Djokovic has hired retired longtime rival Andy Murray on his coaching team as the Serbian legend seeks his 25th Grand Slam title starting at the Australian Open in January. I think it's longer than just Australian Open. I'm thrilled to have one of the biggest rivals on the same side of the net with me, this time as my coach. I look forward to starting this season with Andy and having him by my side in Melbourne, where we've shared many exceptional moments throughout our careers. Keep in mind, after the season that Jannik Sinner had, Novak Djokovic needs to kind of do something. He didn't win a Grand Slam last year. He won gold at the Olympics, which was huge for him. But if he wants to actually contend, he's going to have to change something up a little bit. Him and Goran Ivanisevic are no longer coaching together. Murray, a 3-time Grand Slam champion who retired from competitive tennis at the Olympics in August said, "I'm very excited about this. Look forward to being on the same side of the net. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to help him achieve his goals." Djokovic posted a video on X of him and Murray during the Scotsman playing career, jokingly titled, "He never liked retirement anyway." I'm going to play this video. It's 37 seconds. This is typical classic tennis humor. By the way, John Wertheim still not on the air. I want to be very clear. John Wertheim, by saying Krejcikova, making a joke about her forehead, more people are now talking about Barbara Krejcikova's forehead than if they just would have let him say it and kept the wagon moving. But because he's indefinitely suspended, Tennis Channel, I'm now going back and Google searching Krejcikova's forehead. Because of you. I know he screwed up. He said he screwed up. Let him back on the air. This is typical tennis humor. He never liked retirement anyway. Tennis doesn't know how to do humor. They think dumb things are funny. Actual funny things they don't get. It's a weird crossover for me because I'll pitch stuff and they're looking at me with their eyes glossed over, but then the stuff they pitch me, I'm like, honestly, this is like what my 4-year-old does. Here is Novak Djokovic's Twitter. Here's the 37 dramatic music, pictures, announcement of Andy Murray being his coach.
We played each other since we were boys. 25 years of being rivals, of pushing each other beyond our limits. We had some of the most epic battles in our sport. They called us game changers, risk takers, history makers. I thought our story may be over. Turns out, it has one final chapter. It's time for one of my toughest opponents to step into my corner. Welcome on board, Coach Andy Murray.
It's wild. Not a lot of people know what it's like to be at that level, and Andy Murray has beaten Novak Djokovic in a Grand Slam final. Was it Wimbledon, maybe? So this, I get it. He's not going to hire Roger Federer. And Jannik Sinner just upped his game. Carlos Alcaraz won the French in Wimbledon. This might be a disaster. I don't see it being a disaster. Andy Murray, he told his wife probably, I'm going to be done with tennis. And she said, well, can you start doing daycare drop-off? I'd really like you to do dinner 5 to 6 times a week. All the other husbands are doing that. Okay, and not all the other husbands have won 3 Grand Slams. Well, you know what? The patriarchy, and he's like, you know what? I got a job. The 37-year-old has won the Australian Open a record 10 times, defeating Murray in 4 Melbourne finals. Wow. Djokovic failed to win a Grand Slam in 2024. That's what I said, and has slipped to 7th in the world. I would love it if when you slip, it's 7th in the world. Although he did land the Olympic singles title in Paris, calling it his greatest achievement. Jannik Sinner, who will finish the year as a runaway world number 1, beat him in the Australian Open semifinals, and Djokovic lost to Carlos Alcaraz in straight sets in the Wimbledon final. Djokovic and Murray faced each other 36 times, with the Serb winning 25 times. So you've hired a coach who has beaten you 11 times. And that's not like I served big once indoors. He's beaten you 11 times. That's smart. That's very smart. You know how Coca-Cola bought Dasani bottled water when bottled water wasn't a thing? Smart. 19 of those times they played were in finals, including 7 at the Slams. Wow. For Murray, 2 of those major championship duels were significant. Oh, wow, 2. He captured his maiden Grand Slam title with a 5-set victory over his rival at the 2012 U.S. Open. Okay, I definitely watched that match. I remember that. I had forgotten, though. A year later, he famously became the first British man to win the Wimbledon in 77 years, courtesy of a straight-set victory in the final. So he beat Novak Djokovic for his U.S. Open and Grand Slam debut championship. Wow. And then beat him at Wimbledon next year. Wow. We played each other since we were boys, 25 years of being rivaled. Yep, they called us game changers, risk takers. Okay, did they? Djokovic ended his coaching partnership with Goran Ivanisevic in March, despite winning 12 slams together. What if Andy Murray's just broke? He can't be broke. Former Wimbledon winner Ivanisevic has admitted Djokovic is, quote, not an easy guy, end quote. Such is his intensity to make history in the sport. I can't speak on behalf of working with Grand Slam champions. I can speak on behalf of working with great comedians who really have a vision and a point of view. Not easy guys, not easy girls. In fact, sometimes I feel like I'm too easy and too nice, and then I end up doing the bit, and it's like, this shit sucks. I wish I would have been more dickhole asshole-ish. People... It's such a fine line between being likable, between saying what you want, putting up a fight. You know? Not an easy guy, said Ivanisevic. Yeah, and then the next sentence is he's won 12 Grand Slams. That stubbornness is probably how we got there. Especially when something's not going his way, sometimes it's very complicated, said Ivanisevic after Djokovic had claimed the 2023 French Open. Ivanisevic, great. So that's cool, huh? That's the big news. That's the big news. Other big news, you can pre-order Lucky Loser. For those of you watching on YouTube, listening on YouTube, this is my book, Adventures in Tennis and Comedy. It comes out March 11th. Pre-order it now for holiday sales. There will be an audio version too. I haven't recorded that yet. Maybe I'll record it right here. I don't know how that works, but this is my. I worked fucking hard on this thing. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's heartfelt. There's sex. There's drugs. It's good fun. Pre-order the book for anyone out there that loves a little Michael Kosta, or tennis, or comedy, or the intersection of both, or trying for something, failing, and then seeing what happens in your life. Boom. I will be in Chicago, December 20th, Minneapolis, December 21st. We've already sold out the first show, Chicago Booyakasha at the Den, which is a fucking awesome venue. So we're adding a second show. We have a 7 and 9:30 show. Go to michaelcosta.com/tickets. We got more tour dates coming up, 2025. There is a Connecticut. There's a Madison. Nothing is locked. Yeah, things are locked in. There's stuff coming up. It's going to come up. It's going to be announced soon. Please follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all that shit. Appreciate you guys. Interesting article in The Athletic about Nadal's injuries and how many he had. If you let me just do a quick Google search for you. The Athletic, which is so close to The Atlantic. It's kind of like, really, guys? Nadal injuries. I read this article. So technically, when you search for The Athletic, it comes up New York Times. The article is Rafael Nadal retires from tennis after 20 years of preparing his body to die on the court. This is by Matthew Futterman. This article doesn't deliver on this excellent byline because that is kind of how he played. He prepared his body to die on the court. But what this article does an awesome job of is detailing the minutia of his injuries that I had forgotten all about. So many injuries: wrist, foot, knee, plantar fascia, hip, and even so much early on in his career that we weren't even sure if his career would materialize. If you're having a shitty day at work, if you think the world is working against you, if you think you can't catch a break, if you think, oh God, why does this always happen to me? Read Matthew Futterman's article in The Athletic about how many fucking injuries Rafael Nadal has dealt with, and dealt with where the odds of surpassing the injury were very low, and he just kept going and kept doing it. And some of it might be luck. A lot of it's hard work. Some of it is when the earth and the spirits realize that you're a positive mental attitude and that you are not going to succumb. You're not going to give up. That shit starts to work in your favor. So I thought that was a fun article. I have another thing I want to play for you that's not tennis related. What else did I have on here? Lucky loser. So my sister sent this to me. Former Supreme Court Justice Soter, which I was like, what? This comes from PBS NewsHour, which is an excellent program, by the way, on the danger of America's pervasive civic ignorance. This is a 7-minute clip. The audio quality is bad. I'm going to play for you the last 2-3 minutes. I quickly Googled Justice Soter because I did not realize he was an actual Supreme Court justice. And then I got in this Supreme Court Justice Wikipedia where it's like he was an associate judge. And I go, is that a real judge? And then I was like, oh, yeah, shit. This guy was appointed by Bush and was a Supreme Court justice. So they don't typically talk that much, Supreme Court justice. I think that's going to start changing. I was very happy to hear that Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I hope I said her name right, just publicly said, when I was an appellate court judge, I was upheld to an ethics standard that was enforceable, and now I'm at the highest Supreme Court in the land, and we have ethics, but that's not enforceable. Keep in mind, she's the newest. She's 2 years in. So for her to come out and say this is probably risky, but I love that. Yeah, of course it should be fucking enforceable. Clarence Thomas, anybody? Jesus Christ. Oh my God, dude. The John Oliver where he offers Clarence Thomas $1 million a year to leave the Supreme Court and a giant motor coach. Excellent episode. And I feel like I can share this. I ran into John Oliver at a Knicks game. And, man, he's a nice guy, knows The Daily Show, knows all of us. He's just a good guy. So we've met each other a few times, chatted a few times. So this time I had just seen this episode where he offers Clarence Thomas $1 million a year to leave the Supreme Court, plus this amazing souped-up motor coach, which he does a tour of. But the caveat is that Clarence Thomas, 1, has to leave. 2, he has to accept the offer within 30 days. So from my perspective, what I love about this type of part of the TV show, much like Nathan For You, is like the production aspect. Like, how did this actually go down? Because so many scripts and jokes and fun shit gets killed by standards and practices or the legal department at Comedy Central or HBO. So to see what actually gets put on air is wild. And you realize how many hoops they've had to jump through. So I said to him, hey, man, where was that $1 million coming from? You know, were you going to actually give Clarence Thomas $1 million a year if he said yes? And it was his money. According to John Oliver, who wasn't speaking to me on the record, so I probably shouldn't even be sharing this, he was like, no, we were going to have to figure this shit out. He said we didn't expect him to accept it, but we had to be prepared in case he did. And I can tell you that he told me that he had to speak personally with those people in his life where that he was going to have to give Clarence Thomas $1 million. Now, I did not talk to John about this, but everybody kind of said he probably would get some fundraiser. Somebody would probably kick in $30 million for the next 30 years. But I just love that he put, and he didn't have to pay it, so it wasn't his real money, but that he put his real, he threw his dick on the table and said, hey, honey, if Clarence Thomas happens to accept this, we're going to have to give him $1 million a year. Also, how much fucking money is John Oliver making that's just like an option? Anyways, that is a great, that's a great episode, John Oliver episode, and you should watch it. And I love that occasionally in my weird life, I get to rub shoulders with John Oliver and then ask him about something I saw on his show. Isn't that cool? I got a cool life. Anyways, so I guess Supreme Court Justice Soter is a real guy, and I guess he was actually on the Supreme Court. But this is interesting, and it's about the breakdown of civic intelligence, in this clip calling the pervasive civic ignorance. And let's just back up for a second. Let me just do this. Define civics. I took civics in 7th grade at Green Hills, the study of the rights and duties of citizenship. So I think lots of people don't even know what this word means. When I went to school, we had mandatory civics. It was in 7th grade. This is also why we went to Washington, D.C. This is also why this last week when I was in D.C., I still get chills when I see the Capitol building. I still get chills when our hotel was next to the White House. And I realize all systems should be questioned, and not everything is as wonderful as it seems, but I love American government, and I love that it has a history and how it works, and I believe it's pretty brilliant. It's not perfect. There's a lot of things that could be better. This is also why when I was in Philly, I did a walking constitutional tour because I wanted to see where they fought about the Constitution and where they accepted the Articles of Confederation. Boo, Articles of Confederation were bad. Boo. So here is so did you go to civics? Did you have civics? Send me a message at Michael Kosta, Instagram. Do you know how the government works? He says earlier in this clip that 2/3 of Americans think, what does he say? Don't even realize or know that there's 3 branches of the American government. And why this is important is if we don't understand how our government works, we don't feel vested in it. We don't feel like we can make a difference. We don't understand that the people who run it are people that we elect. Anyways, here is former Supreme Court Justice Soter, supposedly. This is PBS NewsHour, and I think it's worth listening to. I'll pause it and offer my 2 cents, of course.
Posed by the No Child Left Behind rule makes it very...
All right, so the audio's bad. But the information isn't.
Difficult to find the time for more civics. But the reason I said that I think it is the most significant problem that we've got is that I think some of the aspects of current American government that people on both sides find frustrating are in part a function of the inability of people to understand how government can and should function. It is a product of civic ignorance. What I worry about...
this is where I should have started, sorry. What I worry about. This is a former Supreme Court justice, pretty fucking smart. Here's what he worries about. By the way, this was posted 12 years ago. That's super important.
Is a remark that Benjamin Franklin made, and Susan Leahy quoted Jefferson at the beginning about how an ignorant people can never remain a free people. Democracy cannot survive too much ignorance.
Democracy cannot survive too much ignorance. All right, this is a quote. You probably heard it. I've heard it. I liked hearing it again from Benjamin Franklin.
In effect, had a comment to which the Jefferson comment is a kind of an answer or a response. And you probably have heard this, but it bears repeating. Franklin was asked by someone, I think, on the streets of Philadelphia shortly after the 1787 convention adjourned, what kind of government the Constitution would give us if it was adopted. And Franklin's famous answer was, a republic if you can keep it.
Boom! A republic if you can keep it. And I got to admit, I don't entirely know what a republic means versus a democracy versus... But I think I know what he means by if you can keep it.
Can't keep it in ignorance. I don't worry about our losing Republican government in the United States because I'm afraid of a foreign invasion. I don't worry about it because I think there is going to be a coup by the military, as has happened in some other places.
This was 12 years ago, okay? This was before January 6th, okay?
What I worry about is that when problems are not addressed, people will not know who is responsible. And when the problems get bad enough, as they might do, for example, with another serious terrorist attack, as they might do with another financial meltdown, some one person will come forward and say, "Give me total power and I will solve this problem." That is how the Roman Republic fell.
A single person will say, "Give me power." That's how the Roman Republic fell.
Augustus became emperor not because he arrested the Roman Senate. He became emperor because he promised that he would solve problems that were not being solved. If we know who is responsible, I have enough faith in the American people to demand performance from those responsible. If we don't know, we will stay away from the polls. We will not demand it. And the day will come when somebody will come forward and we and the government will in effect say, "Take the ball and run with it. Do what you have to do." That is the way democracy dies. And if something is not done to improve the level of civic knowledge, that is what you should worry about at night.
So anyone who's ever listened to me on 1071 podcast knows this is a sentiment I share and feel a lot. To hear it from a Supreme Court justice 12 years ago solidifies this, and maybe I've just created my own echo chamber, as we all do on YouTube. We find people that are intelligent saying the things that we believe. But I have a hard time disagreeing with this. If you understand how this government works and you're vested in it, there's a better chance that you'll treat it carefully. You won't make reckless decisions. I think that's his final point. There is 30 seconds left. Let's hear what he has to say.
To end where I began, the support of civic education in the United States, including in this state, is a public problem and a public responsibility which is second to none.
The reason I love this, much like stopping drinking a plastic water bottle and just using a reusable water bottle, is this is kind of easy to fix. We can add civics classes. It might be more complicated than I realize, but this isn't. We can solve this. We can educate. We can educate more American citizens on how government works, and therefore we'll get a better government. Thank you for listening to the 1071 podcast. Please leave a rating and a review. Please come to Minneapolis or Chicago for some shows. Please send me if you went to civics or not, or American government class. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to Tennis Anyone podcast. We're on YouTube now. Game, set, match. Kosta.